Sama is equal, so this is a balanced pose, where the whole body is aligned. Who wants to come up here to be our Samasthiti model? Who wants to translate?
Which page is this?
It should just be on that first page, number
1 on page 40.
Number 1 on page 40. Maybe 10 as well. Okay, so we're going to have Samasthiti looking forward. Please do have your Darcia In our feet, we want to find a really solid foundation. Why? Because this is the base to our whole posture. It's like you're constructing a building. If you don't have the foundation aligned, what happens to the rest of the building? It gets crooked, right? It can fall over in an earthquake. So the foundation is really important. What's the foundation of our body when we're sitting?
The sit bones?
The sit bones, maybe your ankles, your legs, right? What about when you're doing a handstand? What's the foundation? Your hands. How about when you're doing a forearm stand? How about a headstand like this? Hands. Yeah, your head, your elbow, your forearm. So whatever's touching the ground will be your foundation. Okay? So here, what's your foundation? Very good. Okay. So it's really important to be aware of what part of your body is the foundation to bring extra awareness there. How about in downward facing dog? What's the foundation? Hands and feet. That's why we're spending so much time and energy on learning how to align your hands. Okay? Because if the hands aren't aligned, then you can have issues in your wrists, your elbows, your shoulders. If your feet aren't aligned here, then you can have issues also in your knees and your ankles, your hips. Okay? Actually, things going on in your feet will affect your whole body. It might even affect your teeth. Right? So people have like teeth issues. A lot of times, tengo que traducir, ¿no? Virginia, ¿quieres traducir? ¿O es mucha información? Porque yo también. Ella le gusta escribir.
Sí.
Yo puedo, sí, hablar los dos al mismo tiempo. Entonces, el fundamento es lo más importante, porque de ahí viene todo el resto de la estructura. Si tienes desalineamientos en los pies, el resto también del cuerpo va a estar desalineado. Hasta problemas en los dientes vienen de los desalineamientos en los pies. Everything's connected. So, here we want to find 2 fist distance in between the feet. And for women, I said a little bit wider because our hips, the structure of our hips are always a little bit wider. Just the pelvis in general is wider. Okay? So then I'm going to ask her to take off her socks for a second. They are great socks though. So from here, just to get really picky, we want to make sure that the second toe is also in line with the outside edge of the mat, just like we were doing with our index finger. It's the same thing here. And that the heels aren't out to one side, or the toes aren't out to the other side. The heel is also straight in line with the second toe. Okay? Go ahead and find the 2 fists again. They're a little bit wider. From here, we want to make sure that the weight isn't just to one side or to the other. So we're going to shift the weight forward, and then back, and then one side and the other, and try to find 4 points of contact. Okay, 4 points of contact means at the base of the big toe, base of the little toe, base of the heel on either side. Okay? So the weight's not too far forward, too far back, or too far to one side or to the other. Okay, that's called 4 corners. Entonces estamos encontrando un equilibrio de peso que no está adelante, atrás, ni en un lado ni en el otro, sino 4 puntos de apoyo. Aquí en la base del dedo gordo, el meñique y el talón, en ambos lados, 4 puntos de apoyo. And we're going to talk a lot about 4 points of contact throughout this course as well. Vamos a hablar mucho de 4 puntos de apoyo, but when you hear that, this is what we're talking about, okay? A lot of times, as Chaitanya was saying today, we don't know what's going on with our feet or our hands because they're the farthest away from our brain, right? So most of the times we are like, okay, I know what's going on in this vicinity, but then we'll be doing a posture like this, right? And so this idea of foundations of four corners is saying bring all of your attention to your feet. You know even what's going on with your right pinky toe? Do you? Right now? No, it's right. Entonces eso es decir, yo sé qué está pasando con mi dedo meñique izquierdo todo el tiempo. Como es lo más lejos de mi cerebro, muchas veces no sabemos qué está pasando ahí. So this is bringing consciousness into our postures. And if we have consciousness in our postures, then we'll have consciousness in our lives. And that's the idea, right? To be able to be really aware of everything that's going on here and around us as much as we can. So traer esa conciencia corporal también a la conciencia de la vida. From here, we want to make sure that the knees are also in line with the ankles. Las rodillas encima de los tobillos. A lot of people will have kind of the knees going in or out. So if this is you, then you also want to focus on where's my knee. And not only in this posture, but in other postures. Entonces no solamente aquí ver dónde está mi rodilla que va directamente encima de mis tobillos, sino en otras posturas. Where do we see the knees knocking in a lot? Chair pose, right? When you align the bones, then your joints will be happy. Okay? So that's why it's really important to get these foundations. Entonces cuando alineas los huesos y las articulaciones van a estar contentos. Y esa es la idea. Now from the hips, we're going to do some alignments of the top of the femur bone into the hip socket. To do that, she's going to bring her hips back and apart, then tuck her tailbone. And that just keeps everything more secure in the hips. So again, bring hips back and apart, then tuck the tailbone, find your center, and that creates integration. Lo que está haciendo es creando más integración, llevando las caderas hacia atrás y alineando los huesos femorales en la cavidad de las caderas. Y cuando ahí mete el coxis, vuelve al centro ya con más estabilidad. Okay? Another tendency here would be either this, right? Otra tendencia sería eso, or this. So we're finding our center. Estamos encontrando nuestro centro. Okay? From here, what do you think we want to see in the ribs? Aquí, ¿qué queremos ver en las costillas? Ribs in, integrated. Las costillas adentro, integradas. Okay? Palms open, and then shoulders towards the earth. Chin in and shoulder blades together. Now, there's going to be a softening here. De hombros hacia las orejas, mentón hacia adentro, junto las capas y suaviza un poquito. What we want to see in the shoulders here is a T. Queremos ver un T aquí. So relax a little bit. Y se relaja un poquito para ver eso. Okay, a lot of times we'll see the shoulder really low, or the shoulders forward, or the shoulders back, or shoulders up. Esas son posturas que vemos mucho, ¿no? So here we bring the shoulders towards the ears, chin in a little, shoulder blades together, and then we soften a little. Soften the skin, soften the heart to find this nice T, okay? And then ultimately, when you're in this posture, you're going to have a straight line from the top of your head through all of your bones. De aquí ya vas a tener una línea recta desde el tope de la cabeza por todos los huesos del cuerpo. Y los vertebrales también, and also the vertebrae. And that's the idea of knowing where your center is. So what you can do just to find where that center line is, if you take your thumbs to your ears and then touch your middle finger together on top of the head, it's kind of like the soft part of the baby. And then put your finger there where your fingers touch. Entonces aquí puedes juntar los dedos del corazón y colocar un dedo ahí. Y eso debe ser como el axis central. That should be like your central axis, right? Imagine it's like this line through your body, and that's what we're aligning for in this standing posture.
With your elbow, should it be like eye forward and with a bit of a bend if you've got weird elbows like that?
When we're just in the standing pose, you can just stand like this. It's fine wherever they go. Because they're not weight bearing.
Yeah.
So if you want to, you can micro bend them just to always have that consciousness.
Okay.
Entonces puedes microflexionar los codos en esta postura si tienes hiperextensión, pero como no hay peso aquí, no es tan necesario, pero siempre si quieres ir creando esta conciencia, también puedes. Okay? So this is our Samasthiti pose, and at the very end, always soften your skin, and that will help to create a balance energetically. Al final quieres suavizar la piel y se va a encontrar un equilibrio energético.
What's the difference with Tadasana?
Yeah, Tadasana is mountain pose, and that comes from more of like a hatha, traditional hatha lineage. And then Samasthiti comes from Ashtanga Vinyasa.
Okay.
Okay. But either one works. Here we'll be saying more commonly Samasthiti. Okay, so Tadasana viene más de Hatha clásico y Samasthiti más de Vinyasa. Okay, Tadasana means not to pose. Tadasana significa la postura de la mano.
What's the difference?
So one comes from Hatha.
That in the pose?
It's the same. It's the same pose. Yeah.
Does Samasthiti also mean that? Or is it?
No, it's more like balanced pose.
Does Samasthiti usually turn in?
You can also Samasthiti. It depends, but most of the times I say Samasthiti is just hands next to your sides. That's a different pose. Yeah.
So palms are out.
Yeah. Usually its palms are out a little bit as well. Heart is open, belly is in, skin is soft. Okay, try to find balance in this pose. So work with your friend.